Hello, we are going to do a reading for the full moon eclipse in Pisces. And what's really interesting is that Saturn has moved back into Pisces as well for the next several months, which I think the parallels there and the complementary energy with the North Node being in Pisces is really interesting. Hold on. Okay, yeah, just making sure we're recording. So I have a list of questions that I want to get into to support us in moving through this energy, purging what we're needing to shed, especially with the eclipse, and moving into the North Node and supporting ourselves with the energy that Saturn is bringing in for us right now. So our first question is, what illusions or false securities are we being asked to surrender under this eclipse? Whoa. What illusions or false securities are we being asked to surrender under this eclipse? Okay. We have the Nine of Swords and the Seven of Pentacles. So the Nine of Swords is a card about anxiety, sleepless nights, insomnia. The Eight of Swords is when we feel trapped because of our own beliefs. And the Nine of Swords is kind of like a step up from that. We've gotten so entangled that we're like looping in our thought patterns. It's keeping us up at night. And the Seven of Pentacles is about timing and patience and waiting on a harvest. So there's like the undercurrent of divine timing. So the false securities and illusions we're being asked to surrender are the idea that looping in this energy is doing us any good. It almost feels like there's a part of you that thinks that you're earning this. This is just planting a seed, nourishing it, watering it, investing in it, and then knowing that the harvest is coming. And this is kind of like the antithesis of that energy, like grasping onto it and being so consumed with what's happening with this growth here that you literally can't sleep is not obviously not doing you any favors, but it feels like there's part of this loop for you is this feeling that this is necessary work that you're putting into this growth. And with the eclipse, that pattern is falling away. So I do want to emphasize here that like all you need to do is notice what's coming into your awareness, notice what's coming up for you with these questions and reflections. And it's not like this is something that, if you feel called obviously to do a ritual or something, ritual is super, super powerful, but this isn't like a prescription for like, you're doing this wrong, you need to fix something. Like the eclipse is doing the heavy lifting here. The energy is already purging this. So this is more the purpose of this is to bring it into your awareness so that you can glean the wisdom that is here for you. And on the bottom of the deck, we have strength. So that really also like emphasizes, Two of Cups under that, Two of Pentacles under that. Okay, interesting. So strength is really emphasizing this softness when it comes to, I like the line from the Mary Oliver poem that says like the soft animal of your body. So this is reminding you that the part of your brain, the part of your psyche, your patterns that are associating this like reward with this like mental effort is something to be soft and gentle with, not to go in with more swords to like try to like forcibly cut this away, but to be gentle and soothing and hold yourself in this pattern, because again, it's on its way out. Like as things come up and enter our conscious awareness, that in and of itself is the process of release. And like I said, the eclipse is doing the heavy lifting here. Yeah, I'm trying to think, okay, if there's anything we didn't cover. False securities. Yeah, I mean, the false security is the illusion that like micromanaging the growth in your mind is, micromanaging the growth in your mind is a false sense of security. And it's, it's illusory. So our next question is, where are we ready to dissolve walls of separation and return to connection? Where are you ready to dissolve? Walls of separation. Ooh. And return to connection. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. We have the Queen of Cups, the King of Pentacles, the King of Cups, and the Three of Wands. Where are you dissolving walls of separation and returning to connection? So, emotionally, you are dissolving the walls of separation between the feminine and masculine energy in yourself, specifically where it relates to your emotional processes. So you are embodying this incredible balance and inner union when it comes to your heart space. So the Queen is embodiment and the King is more like direction. The masculine container for the feminine infinite. And then the King of Pentacles and the Three of Wands. Yeah, I mean, I love the King of Pentacles because he is the most, like, out of all the kings, the other kings seem like slightly uncomfortable in a lot of ways. And the King of Pentacles is the most like at home here on his throne without movement. The other kings, the other suits have more movement inherent in them. And so it's kind of like by the time you've gotten to the King energy, like he's in charge, he's directing, but he's also kind of like looking back at the rest of the suit, like, I don't know, kind of missing that movement maybe, or like, remember when I was a knight and I could like run off and do whatever the fuck I wanted to. And the King of Pentacles is sad. Like, he is so happy here. He has so much richness and abundance. And I mean, like, this is not only directing and managing your physical energy, your physical resources, your wealth, but it is I think the most embodied masculine energy when it comes to the kings. And like I just said earlier, the queens, usually the feminine energy is like leans more into embodiment. But yeah, he's like, he's here for it. Like, he's here for the human experience. He's here to be in a body and enjoying everything that life has to offer. the Three of Wands is about like watching your ships come in. So you've sent out energy into the world. You have like assigned your passions, like you've taken action, you have put intention into what you want to see grow, and you're on this hill looking out over the ocean. You can't really tell because the ocean is also yellow. And so this figure is like watching the vessels that they've sent out into the world return to harbor. Let me come back to the question. Dissolving walls of separation and returning to connection. Where are you ready to dissolve walls of separation and return to connection? So this Three of Wands energy is feeling like remembering as you are embodied in the human experience, enjoying like being in physical and enjoying this process of like discovery and growth and I don't know, pursuit, maybe like investing in something and building something. Also remembering and letting the walls of separation dissolve between you and the project or like the object or pursuant, the thing that you are, you know, as you're working with this passion, you're also remembering that it's not separate from you. Like all of it is you. You're getting to use different parts of your own energy to make things happen in different parts of you. So, you know, it's not like there's no out there, like it's all you playing in the field of you. This is like, yeah, very, very good energy here. How is Saturn in Pisces calling you to anchor your dreams into form with discipline and devotion? How is Saturn in Pisces calling you, to anchor your dreams into form with discipline and devotion? Interesting. And just a reminder, in my head I kind of feel like, everybody knows this, but not everybody has been going through their Saturn return, and so I'm like hyper aware. But Saturn had been in Pisces for like 2.5 years, maybe 2-ish years, starting in 2023. This summer was the first time that he moved into Aries, and then now he's gone retrograde and he's going back over territory that he's already covered. So even if it's not your Saturn return, obviously like Saturn is one of the heavy influences. It's the father figure. And so this period of time we're in now until February 2026 is like kind of checking back in with the ground that we've covered over the last 2 years or so, and seeing like the ways that you've grown and like getting to build using the boundaries that you implemented when Saturn was in Pisces before. So like I said, it was my Saturn return. If you've been following me for any length of time, you know that shit's been crazy, and or you're familiar at all with Saturn returns, you know this. And so I was kind of freaked out about like, why do I have to do this again? Like, is it just gonna be terrible again? Like, is more shit gonna like come crumbling down? But I think this is actually like a really, it's more of a gift and a privilege to get to be like, hey, look at all of this hard work you put in. Now you're getting to build on it. Like, you did the tower moment. You've done the death over and over and over again. And now we're getting to revisit these themes and see like, oh no, we're actually getting to build now, because what needed to clear is gone. And there's a stable foundation now in place. And so that's part of Saturn's gift. It's like, you know, again, like depending on how you think of father energy, it's good to remember that this is like a healthy, we can have a healthy relationship with Saturn as father energy. And it's like, you know, your dad isn't just gonna like throw you to the wolves. Like, you've learned what you needed to learn. Like, I'm kicking you out on your ass. Like, it's like he's walking with us back over this territory that we've covered, and like not holding our hand, but he's like stable and steady and present, like, so that we're not just suddenly on our own. So it's more, I'm thinking of this as more of a gift, rather than like a sudden takeoff and like exponential success, which might happen for you, but just in this analogy, rather than that, which could really shock your nervous system, it's like more of a slow build. So, okay. How is Saturn in Pisces calling us to anchor, calling you to anchor your dreams into form with discipline and devotion? We have the Sun, the Ace of Wands, the King of Wands, and Death. So I like that we got the Sun and the King of Wands, because this feels like what I was just talking about with daddy energy. So, you know, you're this little naked baby on the horse, this white horse, like fully in your innocence, just butt naked in broad daylight. And then this King of Wands is like harnessing and directing your passion and your fire. So it's like this marriage of joy and innocence with this gift of your divine spark and like the thing that lights you up, right? Like your passion and energy, like I've been talking about this a lot lately, like your desires and the ways that they are creating collective movement and tying together so many things that to you it's just like, I want this one thing, and it might feel, the shadow side might feel kind of like selfish, but in a grand scale, in the big picture, you opening to your desires and pursuing them and following this arc. I mean, Ace of Wands and King of Wands, like, you've covered all of the ground. This like development that you are doing is not only serving you, which it absolutely is serving you. It's not just like, oh, I want this thing, I'm gonna go get it. Like, you are growing, but it's also serving the collective. And yeah, I mean, the more that we are tuned into following our own growth and our soul's path, which I believe our desires are a big part of, if not like the way markers for us, the more we are like filling in little pieces of other people's stories, or maybe big pieces. Okay, so, and Saturn in Pisces, the discipline and the devotion. I mean, this is, all of this fire energy is the devotion, is the, like, the passion that keeps you going. And with death here, I think this is the discipline piece of this. And I know, like, discipline is a loaded word, even if we're not talking about, like, just the concept can feel like, ugh, at least for me. But yeah, so this whole spread, this whole arc is saying, like, when you're following your devotion, the discipline comes in, like, the things fall away, the parts of you that are not supporting you in your goal, in following your devotion and your passion, like, they're gonna die, and that's okay. It's not, I don't get the sense that it's discipline in the realm of like, you have to force yourself to do things. There is this, this structure, but that comes naturally when you're following what you're being called to and what you're most devoted to. Okay. What grief or scarcity patterns are ready to be purged from our collective body? What grief or scarcity patterns are ready to be purged from our collective body? I'm going to shuffle one more time. So, what are you purging in the way of, belief patterns, belief systems, again, that are no longer serving you? Interesting. All right. King of Swords, Three of Cups, Page of Cups. Okay. We have the King of Swords, the Three of Cups, the Page of Cups, and we got the Seven of Pentacles again. Really interesting. Grief or scarcity patterns. So the King of Swords, if we're talking about patterns that are ready to be purged, this is almost like a rigidity, like being too boxed in with your thoughts. And this maybe even feels a little bit like, I'm laughing because I have experienced this so much, like kind of an OCD of like, well, if I think about this, it will make this other thing happen, and like I don't want this other thing to happen. It's like I don't know, I guess that's magical thinking. So yeah, it's like too much rigidity, like I said. Like you can let yourself think about anything. Like it also reminds me of, I think, and this is another thing I've talked about if you've read other things that I've written, like the idea that we get from some more toxic versions of New Age manifestation, that like if you're really heavily leaning into your thoughts create your reality, that can create, if you already have these tendencies or belief systems, you can kind of find yourself in like I said, like that kind of OCD, like, well, I can't think about that because I don't want that to manifest, which is fortunately not how it works. And also what the place that I've landed in that feels really good for me is like, it's shitty that, that I went through that, but like those were things that I had inside of me. So there is, responsibility on parts of the New Age community, and like how we talk about manifestation is really important. We have a responsibility there. But like for myself, going through that arc where I was scared and like too heavily policing my thoughts wasn't pleasant, but it was something that I needed to move through in order for my own belief systems to come up and for me to learn like, no, I don't actually have to be scared of my own thoughts. So take that as you will. Grief or scarcity patterns that you're purging from your body. The Three of Cups is about community and celebration. And this is making me think of the South Node in Virgo, only because this is not for everyone, but because I personally have Chiron in Virgo in my 11th house, which is like Chiron is the wounded healer. So it's the wound that we never heal that continuously gives us medicine. And so I'm tracking it in that framework because of my own experiences with community and not feeling accepted. And so it feels like you are purging patterns around this similar vein, like not feeling like you belong, not feeling like you have a community, or being dissatisfied with the community you have. This can also talk about addiction. So this can be like too much partying, too much. This card can talk about enjoyment of like physical, there's a word that I'm not thinking of, but like eating and drinking and merriment. So as far as what you're purging when it comes to patterns, okay, now that I've talked myself into where I am right now, you're purging patterns, scarcity patterns that say that you like can't enjoy these things. And honestly, I mean, that's where addiction, like, not the only, but like that can be a root of addiction as well. Like this fear of scarcity, like trying to fill a hole with that, trying to fill a relational trauma hole with physical things like food or drink or like partying. So you're ready to purge patterns that are like have brought you grief around your sense of belonging and your place in community, and also like scarcity around, you know, this won't always be available to you. So that could end up being like creating kind of a compulsion again around like, well, I'm not always going to be able to do this, so I might as well do it while I can enjoy it, kind of thing. Page of Cups. This feels very, I like that we got 2 cups cards for this because of Pisces. This feels very much like fantasy and avoidance. And I've also talked a lot about how, what are you doing? I don't know. I didn't know if you could see her. Or anyways, sorry, it doesn't matter. Okay, so I've also talked a lot about, or maybe I haven't, and I'm just like planning to write about it, how fantasy and illusion can really serve us if it is supporting us in our sovereignty and expanding our nervous system in the sense of like we're getting more familiar with the idea of like being able to hold more joy. But it really doesn't serve us, of course, if we are using it to distract ourselves or like not face what we're moving through, which I mean, kind of a blanket statement, like everything does serve us because we are being led to what we need, we're moving through what we need to move through. But this is talking about purging patterns of like escaping your present moment with imagination and fantasy in a way that does not serve you. Okay, and then the 7 of Pentacles again. So interesting that this has come up twice. Grief or scarcity patterns. Because the 7 of Pentacles is about like reaping the rewards of the harvest. So it feels like what you're purging with this is maybe just like having a hard time trusting that the harvest is here for you. You know, because it like clearly there's fruit here, right? Like this plant is abundant, but this person isn't harvesting yet. It's more like it's here for them, but they're not at the stage where they're like, you know, they're just watching it. So this kind of feels like I mean, similar to what came up for this card before, like being too attached, maybe like this person is keeping too close of an eye on this because they're scared that it's going to disappear. Yeah, and that pattern again, like that's something that it's coming up to come out. It is leaving your field of resonance. What spiritual gifts are awakening as you learn to trust the unseen? What spiritual gifts are awakening as you learn to trust the unseen? Whoop. Interesting. 8 of Cups, 4 of Cups, and the Ace of Pentacles was on the bottom. More cups, which makes sense. So the 8 of Cups is about leaving behind the stability and comfort of the known and setting out for like uncharted waters, for new territory. And this, I mean, this is a very appropriate card to get for this question because we have the moon here, which is all about the unconscious and, you know, spiritual gifts, intuition. What spiritual gifts are awakening as you learn to trust the unseen? So, I mean, this is like the action of the question itself. The gift of, it's, I mean, it's kind of, oh God, what word am I trying to think of? It feels redundant, but it's like, this is one of the gifts itself, is like you having the courage and trust to strike out into the unknown, because, and that's like maybe redundant, but incredibly significant. Yeah, I mean, I think that's like trusting your intuition is like one of, trusting your spiritual gifts is a spiritual gift. There we go. That's what I'm trying to get to. And like not one to underestimate, because one of my experiences has been like, I've wanted to, you know, like have certain gifts or experiences for so long, and then they start happening and I'm like, wait, but what if I'm crazy? And it's like, no, you're getting what you asked for. But yeah, it takes a massive amount of trust to even receive those gifts. The 4 of Cups, spiritual gifts. Interesting. In this context, it feels like, again, I mean, maybe redundant, but trusting the unseen is like looking up from this, like what you have been invested in. The 3 of Cups, like what we got in the last question, you know, the more visceral, like gratifying pieces of life, and choosing this this divine offering. And then the Ace of Pentacles is the gift of seeing the physical as spiritual, and accepting that the spiritual path is not denial of our physical bodies or of wealth or pleasure. It is, those things are just as spiritual, if not, you know, especially for some people, everyone's path and focus is different, but I think for a lot of us collectively, like maybe even more so spiritual, because, you know, we're human for a reason. Like, we didn't have to become embodied. We could have just stayed in spirit, and like we wouldn't have had a journey to go on, you know. So a big part of our spiritual journey is reclaiming joy and pleasure and physicality. So how can you hold paradox, faith and responsibility, longing and surrender without collapsing into extremes. So this is another gift from Daddy Saturn. How can you hold paradox? And I mean, also relevant for the North Node, South Node. The paradox of being in Virgo season while we're having eclipses in Pisces. You know, like claiming the gifts of both. Okay. 4 of Wands, 10 of Wands, and Justice. How can you hold paradox without collapsing into extremes? The 4 of Wands is like kind of the quintessential balance and alignment card. And this is a really beautiful card to get for this question because it's about leaving this city, this tower behind and coming out into the sun. And like letting what needs to fall away in the light of the sun, in like the warmth and the joy. And I know talking about pleasure a lot this reading. Yeah, and I've told this parable before in a different reading for a different card. But I love this Aesop fable I read. I had this like book of Aesop's fables my grandma had when I was growing up. And it's the story of the sun and the wind have a competition to see who can get this traveler that's like walking on this mountain to take his cloak off first. And first the wind gets really blustery and cold and like howls and like attacks this traveler, and they just wrap their cloak around them more tightly. And then the sun comes out and is like shining and beaming, and the person gets really hot and they take their cloak off, so the sun like wins the bet or whatever. And that's what this card reminds me of, because all these people are coming out to celebrate. They're leaving the tower behind. They don't need to go through a tower moment of collapse, because they're choosing to come out and celebrate. And okay, how can we hold paradox without collapsing into extremes? So it kind of feels like, yeah, this is such an interesting question, I mean, I feel like these cards are saying you hold it by holding it, which is, you know, thanks for that. Because the 10 of Wands is about being overburdened and having too many responsibilities and needing to delegate. And then Justice is about balance. So it's like, thank you. This is just like the question in card form. Okay, there is something more here for us other than just like you hold it by holding it. I mean, that is kind of the answer, but I feel like we can ask for a little bit more, something a little bit more helpful here. Maybe, I guess what's coming through is that, I don't know why this is so funny to me, because it's not helpful or like what I would have wanted to hear if I were earlier in my experience. But we learn to hold paradox by collapsing into extremes. That's just part of the journey. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be the one to tell you that. But also good news, because if you are currently collapsing into extremes, like, hey, you're doing it right. It probably doesn't feel like it, but that's just how we learn. Yeah, but again, you know, reiterating the idea of joy and pleasure and like surrender. It's like the 4 of Wands is do that before you get to the 10 of Wands place where you're like, oh shit, I have so many burdens. But Justice is reminding you that like, yeah, like what I already said, that's how you're going to learn to balance. If you get to the 10 of Wands point, you notice and you're like, oh, I'm going to do something different. I have a choice with how I handle what's going on right now. Okay. What role does compassion for yourself and for others play in aligning with the North Node in Pisces? What role does compassion play for you aligning with the North Node in Pisces? Okay. The Four of Swords came out, and then the Nine of Wands was on the bottom of the deck. This is a really interesting contrast, or not even contrast, like complement almost. So the Four of Swords is about rest, and I also see it as contemplation, because this image is referring to the practice that knights during the Crusades had of when they would return from battle, from crusading, if they returned alive, they, before they left, they would have, they had a coffin made for them already. So when they returned, if they didn't die, they would lay in their coffin and pray and ask forgiveness for all the people that they killed, that they murdered, and also pray in gratitude that they were able to return alive to their families. So, of course, it's a card of rest, especially where it is positioned in the swords arc. But it's always given contemplation and kind of a review to me. And this Nine of Wands is such an interesting card to get with this, because this person's contemplating as well. And the Nine of Wands is you've been through a lot of shit, and you're kind of it's the final push before you are through what you're going through. So where does compassion come into this? What role does compassion for yourself and for others play in aligning with the North Node in Pisces? This feels like, how we say, of course now I'm not going to be able to think of how we say it, but it's being kind to others because you never know what battles they've fought. So in this one, what battles you fought. You are taking time to meditate and reflect on the battles that you fought. And this person is doing the same thing, but in a much more active, they're still kind of mid-battle. They're not getting this rest. They are on their last leg, in the middle of the last push. So I think the compassion here is coming from both of these places. You could be in either one of these energies, and so could anyone else. And this is an interesting, the previous question about paradox. I don't know. Anyways, not going to go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, so regardless of what energy you're in, you've been in both of these places, and so you can, as you're cultivating compassion for yourself, the more compassion you cultivate for yourself, the more you're cultivating for other people as well. We can only meet others as deeply as we've met ourselves. What a cool answer. I love this. I love that we got that. That is really interesting. From kind of a simplistic question, what role does compassion play? Obviously is important, but okay. This is our last question. What new foundation of love, creativity, and collective healing is being seeded through this eclipse portal? What new foundation, What new foundation of love, creativity, and collective healing is being seeded through this eclipse portal? So we got the Nine of Wands popped right back out, the Queen of Swords, and the Six of Cups. So this feels like it's pointing us right back to that compassion, right? So whether you're in this position of feeling like you are on your last fucking legs and like something has got to change soon if you're gonna make it, or I mean, this also very much feels like a reflection of our collective humanity as a whole right now, in a lot of ways, not in all ways. But it feels like this is, you know, not only that compassion, but as we're moving through this eclipse portal and shedding and purging, we're moving out of this Nine of Wands, like last ditch effort energy, into the Queen of Swords and the Six of Cups. So I mean, this is, I guess I kind of said this already, but I'm going to say it again. Like this is reminding us to have so much love and grace for ourselves and other people, because this is a really tough energy to be in. And the creativity comes in. Another thing that the Nine of Wands is about is like, you're getting to the point where it's like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So it could be a last push before you're done, but it's also an opportunity to be like, how can I move differently, because I am at the end of my rope. And so when we bring in that grace and that compassion, that gives us a chance to nurture creativity and kind of flip our perspective, or again, make different choices with how we're handling the where we find ourselves in our personal situations or collectively as a whole. Okay, and then where was I going with this? Yeah, moving into the Queen of Swords, and I love this little detail where she has this like tassel, sorry, you can't see my phone, on her wrist, because she's cut herself out of the Eight of Swords, where she was like blindfolded and had was bound. And you know, there's like butterflies all over. She's got her crown has butterflies, and there are butterflies on her throne. So she's gone through this process of, again, the Eight of Swords is like the chrysalis moment, where you feel constricted and restricted, but it's really your own, like you were the one boxing yourself in, and that gave you the opportunity to break out of the chrysalis. So she's transformed. And okay, I'm losing my train of thought. Where was I going with this? What new foundation of love, creativity, and collective healing is being seeded through this eclipse portal? Yeah, so the eclipse is like the purging and the releasing is the breaking out of the restrictions and the bonds that we had been placing on ourselves. And not in a, like, because of the combination of these three cards, and because of the question, and also just the Pisces energy in general, like it's not a breaking out in a like harsh or violent sense. It's like an offering the compassion that I keep bringing up that we had in that other question, offering that compassion and love and care, and the waters of Pisces like dissolving it away rather than it being like a fight. And I think that's why this Nine of Wands came up twice, because it doesn't have to be a fight. It can be this like wise embodied energy instead, where we're using our minds, you know, we're gaining clarity and yeah, just wisdom, like I already said. Yes, okay, I keep losing my train of thought. Hopefully you're still with me. And then this really beautiful, this card, the Six of Cups, feels like the collective healing part of this question, because this is very much about like generational, it's about generational healing. And so it's like this gift of this dwarf giving this child the cup full of flowers. It's the gifts that we get from our ancestors. It is inner child healing. So not just generational in a grand sense, but like generational in the ways that when we are in relationship with others, like we are a microcosm of like all of the things that have happened to our family line, like all of those things, all of the things that have traveled through time and space and like generations of people and events that have conspired to bring us to where we are now in the present moment. And yeah, like everything that we do and the ways that we love now are like in spite of and because of this like massive history of events. And as we're healing and making our choices now, that is rippling out not only into the collective around us, but like ripples back in time as well, and then obviously changes our futures. So man, this is a really beautiful reading. I'd love to know if this resonated for you, how this landed, and there will be something else for premium members, probably an energy healing and possibly guided meditation. I really didn't think about this before I sat down to make this video, and so I don't want to specify one way or another because my brain is like in the eclipse soup right now. But there will be something on my Substack below this video for those of you who have upgraded. And I invite you to do that if you're looking for deeper support. I also do one-on-one spiritual space holding sessions, and I love being able to support you in that way. It's donation based, and it's a gift to hold space for you. It is a gift to be able to serve my purpose that way. And yes, I really love being able to do that for you. So leave a comment below if you have other topics you'd like to see readings on or articles on. You can follow my Substack if you found me on YouTube. You can follow me on YouTube if you found me on Substack. But be really gentle with yourself. Take care of yourself. Drink lots of water. Get lots of rest. And I will see you next week for another reading. I love you.